Reacher. What happened to Jack's mother and brother? When Lee Child introduced the world to Jack Reacher in Killing Floor 1997, readers instantly gravitated toward the enigmatic ex-military policeman with a strict moral code, a penchant for justice, and a deep aversion to personal baggage. Reacher is famous for traveling light, literally and figuratively, roaming the United States with no possessions but a folding toothbrush, wearing thrift store clothes, and living moment to moment. Yet beneath this rugged, nomadic lifestyle lies a profound and largely unspoken family history, especially concerning his mother, Josephine Reacher, and his brother, Joe Reacher. Over the course of Lee Child's sprawling novel series and its adaptations on screen, including Prime Video's Reacher starring Alan Ritchson, tantalizing glimpses into Jack Reacher's family trickle out. Fans of both the books and the show know that family is one of the few things that can crack Reacher's otherwise impenetrable shell. In fact, his family history is not just an emotional tether, but also helps explain the man he became. This article will dive deep into what happened to Jack's mother and brother, pulling from canon details that loyal fans of the series have pieced together over decades. Josephine Reacher, a quiet force behind the man. Jack Reacher's mother, Josephine Reacher, is one of the more fascinating characters in the series despite her limited on-page appearances. Born in France, Josephine was the daughter of a celebrated French resistance fighter during World War II. Her father's involvement in resisting the Nazi occupation and his ultimate execution by the Gestapo left a lasting imprint on Josephine's character. By all accounts, she inherited her father's fierce sense of independence and resilience. She met and married U.S. Marine Captain Stan Reacher, and they had two sons, Joe and Jack. As a military family, the Reachers moved frequently, from Okinawa to Germany to various bases in the United States, instilling both boys with a global perspective and an ability to adapt quickly to new surroundings. Josephine's death is chronicled in The Enemy 2004, set in 1990 and technically a prequel to the events of Killing Floor. At the time of her death, Josephine is living in Paris. Diagnosed with terminal cancer, she faces her final days with remarkable stoicism and pride. In a moving flashback scene, Jack visits his mother in France and discovers that she has concealed both her illness and her suffering from her sons, choosing to maintain her dignity rather than evoke pity. Perhaps the most poignant moment in that meeting is when Josephine reveals to Jack that she always knew he would grow up to be a good man, a small but crucial validation of the life he has chosen. She also tells him that she is proud of both her sons, though it is clear she recognizes their differences. Her passing leaves a quiet but permanent mark on Jack Reacher. His mother's bravery, independence, and fierce moral compass are undeniably central to his character's formation. What happened to Josephine Reacher? Josephine died of cancer in Paris, sometime around 1990, after living a life shaped by wartime trauma, global travel, and resilience. She maintained grace and strength until the end, and her death was one of the rare events that visibly shook Jack Reacher. In many ways, she is the source of both his toughness and his unwavering commitment to doing the right thing, no matter the personal cost. Joe Reacher, the older brother and shadowy figure. Joe Reacher, Jack's older brother by 2 years, casts an equally significant but very different shadow over the series. Unlike Jack, Joe opted for a more conventional career path, rising to prominence within the U.S. Treasury Department. Brilliant, ambitious, and polished, Joe served as a counterpoint to Jack's rough, itinerant lifestyle. Where Jack's moral compass is direct and blunt force, Joe operated in the gray areas of politics, finance, and bureaucracy, a subtle player rather than a battering ram. Joe Reacher's death serves as the inciting incident for Killing Floor. When Jack wanders into the town of Margrave, Georgia, purely by coincidence, he soon discovers that his estranged brother had been investigating a massive counterfeiting ring and was murdered for it. The revelation is both shocking and deeply personal for Jack, who had not been close to Joe in recent years but clearly held a deep, if complicated, love and respect for him. Joe's murder sends Reacher on a brutal path of vengeance and justice. As the plot of Killing Floor unfolds, Jack uncovers not just the scale of the criminal conspiracy, but also the layers of danger his brother had willingly walked into. In classic Reacher fashion, he systematically dismantles the operation, delivering punishment with ruthless efficiency. Interestingly, throughout the series, Joe's presence lingers long after his death. Jack often references his brother's intelligence, calm demeanor, and strategic thinking. In some ways, Joe serves as Jack's internal sounding board, the rational counterweight to Jack's impulsive instincts. This is particularly evident in The Affair and The Enemy, where flashbacks flesh out their childhood and early adult relationship. Despite their differences, there was deep mutual respect. What happened to Joe Reacher? Joe Reacher was murdered in the events leading up to killing Fleur after uncovering a vast counterfeiting operation in Margrave, Georgia. His death was the catalyst that pulled Jack into the events of the first novel and, indirectly, the entire series. Though he died before the main events of the books, his memory and influence permeate Reacher's life, often steering his decisions and anchoring his emotions. Why their deaths matter to Jack Reacher's character. It's tempting to think of Jack Reacher as a man without attachments, given how ruthlessly he avoids forming permanent relationships and stays on the move. But the deaths of both his mother and brother are foundational to who he is and why he chooses to live as he does. Josephine and Joe represent two halves of Jack's internal code. His mother's resistance roots and stoic pride inform his unshakable sense of justice and refusal to tolerate bullies or corruption. Meanwhile, Joe's intellect, curiosity, and willingness to navigate institutional power structures gave Jack a model for using intelligence alongside brute force. Their losses severed the few strong familial ties Jack had. It's no coincidence that after both of their deaths, he opts for an existence untethered to places or people. The nomadic lifestyle is as much about protecting himself from further loss as it is about freedom. In later novels, occasional encounters with distant family or past lovers invariably end with Reacher moving on, perhaps a subtle echo of his unwillingness to face more permanent loss. How Reacher the TV show handles this backstory. The Prime Video series Reacher 2022, starring Alan Ritchson, adapts Killing Floor for its first season, bringing Joe's death front and center. The show remains largely faithful to the novel's events, highlighting the contrast between the brothers and the emotional weight Jack carries after losing Joe. Ritchson's portrayal of Reacher subtly conveys the undercurrent of loss that longtime book fans will recognize. The quiet moments when Jack reflects on his brother, the flashes of guilt or anger when discussing the past, and the grim determination to avenge Joe's murder. While the show has yet to dive deeply into Josephine's backstory, there are hints that future seasons, especially if adapting The Enemy or The Affair, might give viewers a more explicit look at Reacher's early family life. For fans of the novels, these moments are rich in subtext, and a welcome nod to the deeper character building that Lee Child wove into his books. Conclusion: a man shaped by loss, defined by principle, Jack Reacher is often described as an unstoppable force, part detective, part avenger, part philosopher. Yet his power doesn't just come from physical strength or tactical prowess. It stems from the deep wells of loyalty, loss, and principle inherited from his family. Josephine Reacher's quiet resistance and Joe Reacher's sharp intellect left indelible marks on Jack. Their deaths severed his roots, but also gave him purpose: to stand up for the defenseless, confront corruption head-on, and maintain an internal code that cannot be bought or broken.